Westlake was originally founded as the Township of Dover. Back in 1806, it was actually known as the Township 7, Range 15 of the Connecticut Western Reserve. And in 1805, the Connecticut Land Company purchased this tract of land. Township 7 encompassed the modern cities, Bay Village, Elyria, Lorraine, North Olmsted, and Oberlin. So we started from a very large tract of land. It wasn't settled until 1810. A guy by the name of Joseph Cahoon and his family from Vermont. They were the first settlers in Dover, and he started carving out a home on what is known as the eastern bank of Calhoun Creek. If you can imagine having this large tract of land, and then you had people from Cleveland coming out to the northern portion of the tract and started building lake houses along the lake. Well, in 1901, it was decided that that portion of Dover would split away and become Bay Village. A couple years later, on the southern end of Dover, North Olmsted decided to break away and form its own about 5 square mile piece down there, south of Westlake. So the government basically said, okay, let's make it a little more formal and call ourselves a village and put legal documents in place to allow Dover Village to not have any more secessions. It caused one problem, and that problem was the fact that in Ohio, there was already a Dover, Ohio. So there was a lot of confusion back in the day when somebody would order something or the mail would be delivered, and we here in our community would find out that it was supposed to go to the other community, or have something that was supposed to go to the other community come for us. So it wasn't until 1940 that the village of Dover got together and they wanted to put an end to the problem, and the solution to come up with a new name. There was a committee convened, and one member of that committee, the Reverend William J. Single, was the gentleman that came up with the name Westlake. And at that point, petitions were circulated, and the suggestion of the new name Westlake won popular vote, and so then Dover became Westlake. As far as we can tell on the records, other than the Reverend Single coming up with the name, we don't know his motives behind that, and maybe it was more a balance to what was known as Eastlake at the time, over on the east side. Cleveland was a heavy manufacturing town, and when the more affluent families sought to leave the congestion and the pollution and just the crowdedness of the urban core there, they decided to move out along the lakefront toward the west as well as the east. And it so happened that controversy where Bay Village wanted to split off, prior to that, they were viewing their taxes going to a lot of non-lakefront causes by the government. So they wanted to make sure that they could maintain and have their more affluent lifestyle out along the lake. Part of that secession included the easement for the railway that came through. Bay Village ended up legally having that portion of that railway for Bay Village, but what Dover got in return was a lot more land to build a nice industrial base and agricultural base in our community. The growth of settlers that came out was something that you would have to understand would be very few families with lots of children. And the way that, for instance, when Robert Clegg came out here, he had a lot of work to do clearing the land in order to make the roads to actually put his place on the map. Once you have that infrastructure starting to establish itself, then it attracted more and more population. The history of products that Westlake produced, or things like a kiln where they manufactured bricks, quarry in Westlake to quarry the sandstone that is part of the geological underpinnings of our community, as well as grapes. There was a lot of fruit and grapes for wine. The agrarian community established itself fairly well here in the Westlake community.